Welcome. I'm Meredith. This is the Oasis Spiritual Empowerment Tarot. All about tarot, oracle, and empowering you. And tonight, I want to do a video about what I've been calling mirror decks. But actually, I thought about it, and they're probably more correctly called yin-yang decks. So I'm going to start off by showing you the first set, and I'll kind of explain as I go, save something to look at. So we're starting with, this might have been the first set, definitely one of the first sets that I got that fit this category. We have Lily White and Lily Black by Celia Mellisville. So when I say mirror or yin-yang decks, basically what I'm talking about are decks that are very, very similar. In most cases, very close to the same decks, but they have significant differences. Oftentimes it has to do with color, but not always. So in this case, now I did go ahead and reordered all of the majors for these decks so you can see a comparison. For some of them, I didn't do the whole decks because there are quite a few decks actually that I have that fit into this. So, but I did want you to be able to see like one-for-one comparisons for each. So here, obviously, right, we have a black and a white deck, essentially. But one of the really great things about this deck is you'll notice that there are some details that are more apparent in one deck and other details that are more apparent in the other. Definitely energetically very, very different feelings, at least for me. Now, when I bought these decks, basically I couldn't decide between the two because they were both beautiful. So I bought them both. And, I thought, well, I'll use, and certainly within this genre that I sort of created or, called out. I'm sure other people have, whatever. Point is, I'm so sorry, I'm tired. But the point is, I'm sure people are already doing this. I don't think it's anything, innovative. It's just how I do it. But like here, you'll notice you see the moon, whereas here it's like covered up. But so one way to use this decks like these would be maybe use one in the morning, one in the evening, right? Definitely kind of morning versus evening feel. And I think that's pretty much where I began with this. But over time, it's become kind of much more than that. Okay, so let me go into the next set because we could do this all day just with this one. But I want you to see the different decks that I have because some are very, very different. And some are actually by different creators, but they still fit into this category. So definitely could do like a morning nighttime, and that's wonderful. But this is the Tarot of Light and Shadow, and it's by John Matthews and Adria Este. Now this has two decks that are meant, well, honestly, have I read the guidebook? Not really. So I don't really know what they're meant to do, but I know what I do. And I use these together, as I do with the Lily white and black. It's kind of the same deck, but these are actually true kind of mirror, or at least much closer. There are differences though, so it's not a straight, exact reflection. But so I do enjoy combining these decks and readings, and there are a couple different ways that I do that. So one way, it's worth mentioning, I'm a hypnotist. I'm a professional hypnotist. I see clients all the time, and so for me, conscious versus unconscious is huge. Right? It's just it's in my daily thoughts. It's a big deal. Because I work with the unconscious mind. So I really like using these types of decks for spreads where I might do basically a mirror, right? So I might do, say, 9 of one, 9 of the other, but one side is the conscious, one is the unconscious. Or I might do 3 and 3. It depends. But the point is that for me, they tend to work really well. Like in this deck, this is always the conscious mind, and this is the unconscious. They just feel really, really well suited for that. So we're going to move to the next deck because, again, I do have a few. So, but this is a fabulous deck. And can I tell you, you get both of these decks. This is mass market. And I forget how much it was. I feel like it was under $30. You get that big book. I think that's fabulous. Well, let's see. This side. 45. I think I got it on sale, honestly. Just saying. But it doesn't matter. Either way, I think it's great. I mean, you got 2 decks. But anyway. Now we have the Wandering Moon. And we have the original and the Midnight Sky edition. And these are by Rachel Jean. So now, again, with this one, we have, of course, that light and dark. And light and dark. Now here we have the added sparkle, which I love. Sometimes with decks like this, I will use them for when I do a spread for choices. Instead of, you might think I use, one deck for one choice, one deck for another. And sometimes I do. But what I've been doing more and more is actually, generally with spreads like that, I kind of create a path, right? Multiple paths, depending on how many choices exist. Sometimes 2, often 3, could be more. And what I do is I pull a card for each. So for each step along each path, I pull one from each deck. And this part changes, but essentially I'll assign something to each deck. So one deck might be the benefit, whereas the other might be the challenge. One might be the thing to watch out for. One might be what I'm going to need to move forward. I mean, that kind of depends. It really depends on what I'm looking for in the reading, you know. If there are only two choices, that's when I'm more likely to use these two, you know, to assign one deck per path. But even then, I've kind of pulled away from it because I do feel like when I do that, depending on the deck that I use, but overall, I feel like that puts depending on which deck I choose for which path, it creates a sort of predisposition, you know, on how I see the results of that path, depending on the deck that I use. So I've moved away from doing that. But you know, that's me. So let me put this away, and then we'll do the next one. The next one is a bit newer to my collection. I mean, it's not super new, but it's been a few months. And this is another one that came with 2 decks. And this is Sawyers Path, a tarot journey with Tarot 33.6, the red pencil sketches. And this is by Jamie Sawyer. So now, and this was one of the things that I most loved about this, aside from, I love the artwork and all that, but I love that it comes with these 2 decks. And it's such a fabulous idea that she had for this, because they work just wonderfully together. So, which side? So again, I did order these, so I want that to go to waste, because that took more time than I care to consider. But this one I think is especially nice for conscious and unconscious. It just works so wonderfully. So another way that I'll use decks like this is it's really any kind of pairing of opposites, right? Any kind of yin yang. So I might use it for sometimes when I'm trying to choose something, it's not so much should I do this or that, it's should I really do this thing? And for me, not always, but oftentimes when I make big decisions, I want to look at the likely result for myself, but also for my daughter, for example, maybe for friends, for family, maybe for society, who knows? It depends on what I'm going after. But this is a great one to use for that too, where one deck will be that personal, that me, and the other deck will be other, right? So, and again, I will create like a mirror spread. So if I were to pull, so now we're going to shuffle it, but so say I were to pull, just for space sake, say 2 cards, right? So, and this would be for me, what's the result for me? And then what's the result for that other? And so that's kind of how I look at it. And the neat thing about using this deck specifically is because this deck, the red pencil deck, it takes a little bit of a minute. Like, this is like really obvious and clear, and this is clear too, don't get me wrong, but this deck requires me to focus my attention a little bit more, whereas this one really clearly at a glance, I mean, it's so clear, so obvious. And again, this is too, don't get me wrong, it's not that I can't see it, but it just takes that little bit more focus or attention or time. And that's really well suited to the unconscious. So I really like that. It just feels so right to use it that way. Yeah, so I really enjoy that. All right, next, because we do have more. Okay, so the next one is Silhouettes Tarot. And this one, so I got this on Kickstarter, and oh, I forgot. I love the way this opens too. And you had a choice of if you wanted. Oh no! I told you I ordered these, right? Okay. You had a choice if you wanted one or both. So I got both. And so the backs, there's a slight difference. It's not huge, but it's enough. I mean, you'd be able to pull them apart and all that. We do have different colored gilding too, which I quite like. And then now this one is more truly like a mirror deck, I guess. I mean, things aren't reversed, but the colors are, or at least the main, instead of white we have black. But again, I use it the same way. It has a different energy. It just has a different energy. And, certainly you could use this daytime, nighttime. But I just feel like there's so much more you can do with it. Occasionally with this deck, because, I don't know, because I'm crazy and I like huge decks. Occasionally, I will actually combine this into one deck. And then, I love these. But can you feel the difference in the energy? It's fabulous. So, when I do it that way, whatever card I pull, depending on which deck it's from, it's going to have a different leaning, So I really like that. And this deck, I mean, it's fairly thick, but it's not too bad to combine. And it's so flexible and easily shuffleable. I'm not doing it right now though, but it's very manageable to actually combine these two. So yeah, that's how I do it. So if I was doing a reading, of course I'm pulling the same card. That's not what I meant to do. So this death feels very different from that death, right? Do you feel it? It's just an instant. It's a difference. It's a difference. This one speaks to me more of that ending, whereas this one speaks to me more of rebirth. Just as a general overall. Now, of course, depending on the reading and everything, you know, I may pull different things at different times, but just as like a broad example. Right, next, we have Black Salt Lenormand and Pink Sugar Lenormand. And these, oh, and I didn't say who. So the Silhouette Tarot is by Woe Studio. And it's got like a bigger book, so it's not with the deck. And is distributed by Vermilion. That's all I can tell you about that. Whereas these decks are by Logan Townsend. And these were part of the same Kickstarter. Now, originally, I only got this deck. And as soon as I received it, I was a little bit sorry that I didn't get this one. But in case you've missed my previous videos, I'll just tell you, I wasn't sure with the gold and the pink I'd be able to really see things clearly. But look at that. Look at that. So pretty. So pretty. And he's working on a tarot. I'm so excited. But I think it's coming to Kickstarter in February, maybe? I hope so. I can't wait. I'm so excited. But anyway, so same deck, different colorings. We have the black and the silver, and then we have the pink with the gold. And now this is Lenormand, right? So everybody's like, oh, you know, Lenormand, you read like Lenormand. But even with that, there's still going to be differences. I mean, obviously there's differences depending on what cards are around them and things like that. But even with that, there's still a little bit of a range for you. And definitely this wonderful for night. And this does feel like a morning deck. I'm not going to lie. It's just so wonderful in morning. But, oh, did I? Oh, I mostly ordered it. But this is a great deck to use. I don't combine these so much. I think I did a couple times. But for me, the way I really like doing it is that kind of above and below, inside, outside, conscious, unconscious. I just think works really, really well. And it's just, oh, now here, so I keep everything. If a deck comes with extra cards or choice cards, 9 times out of 10, I keep them all. Because for me, again, different feeling. And I love how fabulous the whip on the strawberry. I just love that. But, yeah, it's slightly different. And it alters my readings in a way that I like. You know, it just makes it a little more expansive. Gives me more... flexibility is not really the word, but it just gives me more possibility, maybe. So I really like it. But yeah, it just works so nicely. So, like, for example, you know, I might do, usually with this, I'll do, when I use both, it tends to be a smaller, oh, here, so I didn't shuffle though. Let's at least get something slightly different. Well, still didn't shuffle, but whatever. So I'll tend to do, you know, maybe a smaller thing. Let's see. So actually, because it's bothering me, I'll tell you, pink goes on top. I'm just saying. But I guess it doesn't matter, but it matters to me. But like it just feels so nice. So this is, this is what's going on. What's that obvious? This is the stuff that you can see and touch and taste and smell, right? This is what's going on below the surface, right? This is the root of this. If that makes sense. That's how I work with it for the most part. And I really like that, because for me, I want to get to the root of everything, right? I don't want to deal with symptoms. Sometimes you have to manage symptoms, and that's fine. But I want to solve and dissolve what needs to be done. So I want to get to the root. And that is my philosophy as a hypnotist and as a tarot reader and a Lenormand reader. So that's how I use them. Now, one more that's really clearly in this category. So we have Prisma Visions Tarot. Now this is the mini. I do have the full size too, but I just thought it'd be easier to do the mini so you can really see. And then we have the Light Visions. Now, the interesting thing about these decks is, again, there are some slight differences. Love these backs. And the card stock and the gilding, this is James R. Eads, by the way. In case you didn't know. You probably know. But impeccable. So, this is another deck that, pair of decks that I use. And, I think I started just because I wanted to be able to, use more decks and as an excuse for buying the same deck. But it's really not. It's really not the same. And it just feels different too. It's just such a different feeling. And there are things that stand out in one that don't in the other. There are things that exist in one that I'm pretty sure don't exist in the other. And that, look at the Emperor. Hugely different, right? So they're not exactly the same. They definitely have different energies. And again, just really, really nice for that kind of yin-yang type of spread. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be specifically a spread of opposites, although that's most often how I'll use them. But it might just be, again, like that, what are the benefits to doing this? What are the drawbacks? Or, what are things, what are tools that I need to bring to the fore, right? And then what are things that I need to reduce or watch out for, or, like that. So, really love using these. And again, because there are differences, it has like an added interest isn't quite the word I want, but it just adds that little extra something that I really enjoy. Okay, next. Now these are quite new to me. So these are the new classic Tarochi. We have a vintage version and a regular or classic by Mr. Freiburg. And again, these I got on Kickstarter, and you had a choice. You could get one or the other or both. So I got both. And now I'm going to tell you. So I haven't had these long, right? In fact, I did the unboxing. It's pretty new to me. We do have different color backs, and you can see there's that kind of worn looking on this one. So the differences between these two are really pretty slight. This one's a little more, I guess, saturation. This one's, got like some wear spots. So this is a very slight thing. It's not as obvious as the other decks, right? But there are differences. Now, personally, so far I'm just focusing on one deck. I'm really not combining these. But since I'm including, I think, or I'm trying to include all of my mirror yin yang type decks, I thought I should include this. It's not exactly like that, though. I think the energy for, again, obviously, this is all just, for me. It's not so much that the energy is different in these decks. I think it's more just that vibe, that atmosphere. This one's more, kind of vintagey. It feels a little more old and kind of, gothic-y or Victorian. Whereas this is beautiful artwork, but it doesn't feel as, it doesn't take me back in time as much as this one. So I think, and I haven't done this, but I think that if I do end up working with these together, it's going to be more time focused. Maybe like past versus future, or past and present. Because to me, this deck harkens to an older time. So, but energetically, they do feel the same. So I hope that makes sense. But I thought I should include them, and I think that would be a really interesting way to work with the decks, actually. I haven't really had anything very time specific lately, but hopefully when I do, I will think of this deck, because I do think that would be a neat way to work with it. But as far as like conscious, unconscious, stuff like that, it wouldn't be my first choice, just because the energies feel the same. So, next one. Now this one's not a perfect pairing, but I really like it, and it's close. So, here we have the Triomphe De La Luna by Patrick Valenza. Now here we have Paradoxical Rose with the illustrated pips. Here we have the full spectrum. This is not illustrated pips. So for this deck, I did order one set of the minors, because that's where you're going to see the biggest difference, and I actually really like that. So I do think that, first look at these backs. I do think that I need to get the original, the classic, because I feel like that'll be a bigger difference, and it's so pretty. So I think ultimately I'm going to get that and use that instead of one of these. Like, I'll be able to pair it with either one, and I think it would work really nicely. So here we have some color differences, and sometimes it's extreme, And it does give, especially this one just feels very, very different. So some cards have stronger differences to me than others, which, not unexpected. But I'm going to get to the minors. Let's trying to, there we go. Now this one does have, again, I like to keep my extra cards. So this has a couple tower cards, and I kept them both. But let's get to the minors so you can really see. Very different, right? And I actually really like having pips versus the illustrated. It's just so interesting to me. So I do think I need the classic to make it really, really pop. But love it. So depending on what if I get an illustrated classic, which I'm not even sure what's still available, but if I got the illustrated, I would pair it with this. If I get the regular, I would pair it with this. I think that's really going to decide. And we're not even going to talk about getting both. But I really like these together. And again, they feel just different. Now, back to the quartz, they're the same except for the color. But even then, it's just, it's so, I really like these together. I didn't put the rest in order. But if you wanted to just see how, like if I did do a reading, and this is another one that I would do either conscious or unconscious, or actually I feel like this would be a good one for maybe like a strengths and weaknesses or challenges and benefits, that type of thing. And for me, this one, keep knocking my little guy. Love my guy. Oh, it's not focusing. Oh, no. That's terrible. Oh, no. I'm dropping everything. Okay. But, so to me, this would, well, I mean, but this would definitely be more of that challenge side. Whereas this one, and I think too, because of all the colors and that beautiful rainbow, like to me, this speaks more of inner self, inner strength. It just kind of feels that way, Whereas this one, I would see more as an outside influence or challenges, things like that. And I love the red. Don't get me wrong. I love red, but that's kind of how it feels to me. I mean, to you, it might be the opposite. All right. I've got to grab cards I dropped. Okay. All right. Now, I have 2 more sets of tarot decks, but first I do want to show an oracle because it's super fabulous. So this is the Tattered Wings oracle, and it is by Naya House. And this is one of my favorite oracles. Now, these aren't 100% the same. I don't even remember. So there's different editions. There's the intuitive. Is that? So I don't even remember. One of these is the original. I think the black and white. I think this one, or this, grayscale. I don't know. I think this is the original. And then I don't remember the version. There are 3 versions of this. This one is like the 3rd version, but it's not. The 3rd one is like the warrior or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, they're close, but they're not. There are some cards that are unique to each deck. One of them only has 1 card that's unique. The other one has quite a few. But I did order these, and sometimes the perspectives are a little different. There are some different. I mean, you could see, but it's very different feels, right? Very different feels. And so this one I use a lot for conscious and unconscious. This deck, both decks, I use kind of often like a journey type of deck, like kind of like pathworking. This is a really good deck to use for kind of exploring motivations and desires. And for outcomes. And for desired outcomes. Well, I already said desires, so I guess that's... But what I mean by that is sometimes... sometimes you might say, like, oh, I want this thing, right? And this is a great deck for kind of exploring that. Like, why do I really want it, right? What does that thing mean to me? What will be the biggest benefit that I get when I get that thing? And sometimes going off and saying, well, what if I don't get that thing? What does that really mean? Is it really about the thing? Is it about the getting? Is it about, something else? So I use this deck a lot for that type of work. But also for like a spiritual exploration. And having and sometimes I'll just use one deck, quite a bit. But I also quite a bit use both. And when I do, I think this is the one that really brought to mind the idea of a mirror, because that's kind of how it feels. It just feels like I'm looking at like 2 sides of the same coin. And yeah. I use this a lot. In like a this is more of a branching kind of spread generally when I use both. So sometimes it'll be, kind of one set going one way, one set going the other way. Sometimes I'll combine for a middle pathway. It just depends. But it's a great deck to really go down those different pathways, and the decks feel very, very different from one another. The atmosphere in the decks, the energy, it just feels very different. Now, I'm going to do a set of decks that are by a different author, or, by different authors. But they work so wonderfully with this. So we have the Healing Waves Tarot by Nawan Junhisiri, and the Ocean Arcana, or the Ocean Tarot, and this is by Taylor Bryn. Now, these are totally different decks, totally different artists, totally different art styles, but both have an ocean theme, and they both capture the energy so beautifully, and the energy is so very different. So, show you. So here are the backs, and you can already kind of get that feel, right? This is definitely the unconscious mind deck. And this is the conscious. This is above. This is below. Yeah, I mean, 100%, right? There's no question for me. You may feel differently, but, and, this deck focuses on, sea creatures, but most of them tend to be closer to the surface, whereas this one tend to be closer to the depths. And it's definitely a darker deck overall. This one's a lighter. They work so wonderfully together. I love these together. They just feel great. And I'll tell you that even here, right? Both have 2 seahorses. But, take a minute and just kind of get a feel for that, right? How does that feel? How does that make you feel when you look at that? Now, how does that feel? It's different, right? So, I love using these together. And in fact, I think that because of this, here we have, just to show you. So this is numbered the right way. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, the point is, I forget what I was saying. I am so tired. Did I tell you? My sleep schedule is so screwed up. I got 3 hours of sleep last night because I'm trying to get back on schedule, but it's not really happening. But, so because these work so beautifully together in that sort of yin-yang kind of way, I use both of these much more than I think I would ordinarily. I mean, they're both beautiful, both feel wonderful, but for me, they really shine in how wonderfully they kind of play off each other. And, yeah, I really love working with them together. So now I'll certainly use each one on its own. But, and here, I mean, feel, wow, both lighthouses. but yet, how they feel. So, here's my star. Yeah, so I use these a lot more than I otherwise would have, probably, because they're so great together. And love they both have the sunfish. I think I talked about it in one of my other videos, but there is a fabulous, oh my god, it's hysterical. It was on Reddit. If you Google like sunfish Reddit, like why I hate the sunfish or something, I think I linked it in one of my videos. But it's a rant somebody did about why the sunfish is like the worst thing alive, and it's hysterical. I highly recommend. But yeah, totally different feelings. You know, here we have the sunfish in the sun as the sun. Here he's still so dark, but the sun's just barely reaching. It's a fabulous pairing to me. Really enjoy how they feel together. And it wasn't something that I was like planning when I got them. You know, I got this one first, and I thought I could do without the healing waves. And I'm so glad I decided that I couldn't. But yeah. All right, one more. And this is kind of like an honorable mention, only because I haven't really worked with it a lot like this, because I just got Keeper of the Sacred Bee Tarot. But I definitely thought it was worth showing, because I think it's going to be fabulous. Because here we have with the Keeper of the Sacred Bee, we have a very traditional RWS style deck. Whereas with the Journey of the Sacred Bee, it's more Thoth based. So, and when I did the unboxing, I was just really enjoying how these kind of felt together. So I've played with them a little bit, but not much, because I did just get this deck. But I love that. I mean, very different vibes for me. I mean, you know, all things being equal, if you take an RWS deck and a Thoth deck, especially when it's really Thothy, they're going to have a different energy. They just are. But there's something, maybe because it's the same creator, who is Kelly Burton, right? Is that her name? Oh god, I hope I didn't get it wrong. What's her name? Yes, Kelly Burton. That's probably at least part of it, but it just... I don't even know. Like, they just interact very powerfully, very uniquely. You know, it's not the same if I were to take, you know, I mean, I could take any RWS deck and set it up against this one. It wouldn't give me the same feeling. And again, this could just be a weird me thing, but it's very different. It's very different. And I really like how they feel together. And, you know, this Hanged Man compared to this Hanged Man are not the same. the energy is definitely different. And I really like that we have RWS paired with Thoth. I think it just adds an extra something. So even though the cards themselves are completely different, right? I mean, feel the energy, right? Feel how different. Even though, and I did do the minors with this one as well, because, you know, the energy is just so different in the best possible way. Yeah, I love these together. So, and again, I haven't been able to use them that much together because I just got this deck, but I will be definitely using them together. I really like the way, like, I'm so surprised by how much I like it and how very different they do feel. And I just think it's a wonderful way. And again, this to me, you know, RWS for me, this is the conscious mind. Thoth is always the unconscious, the higher self. Love him. This is like the sexiest Knight of Cups ever. Reminds me of like a Strider or something. But anyway, yeah, it's just fun. So I only did one suit in order, but again, I might do, you know, a spread where I say, I don't even know. Say I had a goal, whatever it was, doesn't matter. You know, I come up with this goal, and I'm like, I really want to do this thing. Okay, so what do I need? What do I need from that conscious mind? What do I need to really freaking balance? Always, the story of my life. But so okay, that's what I need to focus on, and then I might say, what do I need to really be on my guard against? Yeah, that guy. And what do I need to what's the likely result of me getting this thing? And this is all conscious, right? Dang, my little guy. So that's all on the conscious level. So now I would pull the same cards for the same reason, but now for that unconscious, right? So what's that thing that, you know, up until now has been kind of below the surface but needs to be addressed? You know? So you're bringing the unconscious to the conscious, right? Maybe I'm feeling oppressed, whatever. And then what do I need to watch out for? And then I forget what I said. I'm so tired. What do I what's the likely outcome, right? So now this is my conscious one, but this one's the unconscious, the Queen of Wands. You know, so maybe it's about just being in better control with my energy, better rhythm, better for me, I mean, you know, I'm not doing really, but for me, this would probably be more about really nurturing myself and taking better care of my resources, how I apply them to myself. Like, that's where it really needs to go. Whereas consciously, it's more about that balance, which again could be about resources too, right? You know, you don't want to squander that energy. You know, maybe that will bring about that better understanding. But there's there's an added dimension doing it this way, and I I feel like I should do like a real reading to show you, but I also feel like sometimes I over explain things, so maybe that's enough. I don't know. You let me know if this isn't clear, if I'm rambling. Maybe when I watch this back, I'll say, "Oh, that's too rambling. I gotta fix it." I hope not. But yeah. So let me know what you think. There could be a couple decks that I overlooked that I use like this, but you know, for the most part, these are my yin yang mirror type decks, even though they're not mirrors. And I really enjoy combining decks like this. And I will say that I think this is something that you know, like moving forward, if I come across a deck that has a kind of sister to it or brother or what have you, it's going to make me more excited about it, just because I do enjoy working with these so much in this way. And again, I don't always use them this way. Sometimes I use them on their own, but I really like combining them. So let me know what you think. Do you work like this? You know, it can't just be me doing this, right? So let me know. Let me know what you think, what you do, what you like, and what you want to see. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and most of all, just be wonderful to yourself. Be really, really wonderful, because you deserve the best, only the best, all the best, and that is my wish for you.